Morning all, Andy here again. So I thought I'd do a quick video before you go and rush out and buy some of these Max7219 matrices, the drawbacks of buying them for certain projects, and it will become clear what I mean when we talk about the 12-way. So let's start off with the one way and just recap. Okay, this is a square one, and I, for the life of me, can't remember where I purchased it from. But whether it's square or they're round LEDs, it doesn't matter. Just highlighting where we talk about cascading the displays. These pins, which are already soldered on for you, are where you connect your wires to your ESP or your Arduino. And on the back, it's silk screened. You've got VCC, ground, D in, clock and latch. So the thing you're looking for here is DI, D in, and this side is D out. So if you wanted to chain two of these together, you would have to put some pins on this side, or wires, and then on, if you was going to join this one to this one, this is D out, and it will connect to this one which says D in. So we put it in the line of the wire connection. So this is out, this is in, this one's out, and then you carry on, and that's how you end up making them. Now, if you were doing it in a project, you would put them side by side like this, and then you would link the wires underneath to here. But we're going to cover something probably in another video about what happens if you get different matrices from different brands. Are they going to be the same? You do need to make sure they're all the same hardware type, because you can't mix hardware types. If you're not sure what I mean, go and watch video 1 and it will tell you what hardware type we need to select in code to make these things work. So these are brilliant, these one-ways. They're readily available on Amazon and eBay and AliExpress and places like that. Now, if you were daisy chaining these together, you would have to stick them together. And point to note, before you stick them together, wire them up and get something displaying on the screen, because you want to make sure that this one, say this is the correct orientation, we have a letter A and it shows A, but then this one has the letter A and it's upside down. You would have to reverse the orientation of that to make sure when the alphabet or your images are displaying on the screen that you get them the right way up. So always do your wiring, get it displayed on the screen, mark them so you know which orientation you need to put them in, and then you can stick them together. And then you won't be wrong, because there's been nothing worse than, say, doing a strip of 4 and having the middle one or one of the middle ones upside down, because that would really ruin your day. The only way to correct it, as far as I know, unless you do, well, that's a good question, you might be able to make a zone, possibly not, I don't know, you can't, I don't think you can scroll through a zone. No, you would have to break it and turn it upside down. So let's just talk about the single ones. If you are going to glue them, you have to make sure, and this is a bad example, so I've got square and round, but you have to make sure you get them equal, because even a little tiny offset, like 0.5 millimeter, so if you get this up there 0.5 millimeter off, it will show up in the matrix, because this one, it does show up. And even this one, when we cover this one in a minute, it will show up. So make sure you glue them together. The best way to do it is trying to get a straight edge, butt them up to against a straight edge. So this is a bad example, but we'd say you got a straight edge, you push them up against a straight edge so they can't move, put a bit of glue there, push that together, they're on the same straight edge, so they should be parallel. And obviously if you got round and round, they will start looking nice. The beauty of that is that these are made with 1 millimeter spaces between the pixels, and then a 0.5 millimeter here. So when you glue that on, you're then going to have the 1 millimeter gap there. or you have 1 millimeter space there, which is the correct gap. So I hope that covers that. So 4-ways, you can buy 4-ways already made. So you get this lovely PCB, lovely silk screened on the back that tells you what pins to connect to what on your microcontroller. Tells you that this is where you need to connect in, and it does say D in and it says D out there. And you think, yeah, all well and good. Yeah, these are, you know, buy one of these is probably slightly cheaper than buying 4 of these. But the big drawback is these aren't made very well. So let me see what I mean. Look, I've got a piece of paper here. I'm going to fold it once. Let's fold it twice. I'm sure it'll go in. I haven't tested this yet. No, twice is 4 times too much. Twice. Where's the biggest gap? This is the biggest gap. You see, I'm standing that piece of paper in between that screen, and it will go in that one because that's now standing up, and it goes in that one. Now you may think, well, how thick's 2 sheets of paper? 0.24 millimeters. That's not much, Andy, but I tell you what, when it's on the display, you see it. And the reason I noticed it is when I bought these, I thought, oh, this one is in actual fact the best one I bought. And let me just sidetrack a little bit. This one is manufactured different to this one. You can see this one has header pins soldered onto the PCB, which means this matrix is removable. And I'm not going to pull it out, because I did pull one out when I was soldering this lot together, and I found it incredibly difficult to get back without bending the pins, because you have I think it's 8 pins on the back, each top and bottom. So you've got 16 pins. They're very fragile, and you've got to try and push a male pin into a female header, and if you don't get it parallel, straight, if it's wonky and you press it down, you bend the pin, then you've got a chance of breaking your matrix LED display. Where this one, you can see the modules are soldered directly onto the PCB. So I think that's why this one has a better tolerance than these ones. Now these are 3 4s joined together, and this has a massive difference. So this is not where I joined it, this is on a join. So that's 2 sheets of paper and I can get it in perfectly. Going to fold it again. Yeah, and that's about it now. That's quite tight. So it's gone from, what did I say, 0.24 to 0.46, and that's one of the small gaps. This one, look, that cell's in there. I could probably fold that half again. Let me just try fold that half again. It's going to make it hard now to get that in. Only just. So now that's gone up to 0.64. So you can see what I mean. I've got, let me just go down now. I've got a big gap here, slightly smaller, big gap, no gap here because I glued it together, massive gap, big gap, no gap because I glued it, big gap, medium gap, big gap. And that is the problem when you're buying these displays, is quality control. And I think what it is, you know, when they're soldering these header pins on, obviously there's a tolerance where the header pins go through the whole of the PCB, and it just really ruins the display. Now, I can show you what happens, because on this one, I made a 3D printed round to square adapter. So if you look at this, you can see that let me bring it in here because it's not focused on the edge of it. This is a matrix, and then you see this bigger bar in the middle. So here's a bigger bar, here's a bigger bar, that's a big bar. Here there's no bar because it's where I glued it together. Big bar, big bar, biggest bar, no bar, because that's where I glued it together. Big bar, big bar, big bar. And you do notice it, especially if you're closer up to the matrix, you do notice these gaps. And you know, I tried to get this as straight as I could, and even the matrices, which are already soldered to the panels, aren't all perfectly straight. So these two lines here aren't perfectly parallel. And again, excuse me, when you've got a nice display running, especially if you're using scrolling text, it really is noticeable. So if I was making a 12-way again, two things I would try and think about is either you buy the 4-ways where you can't remove the LED matrices because the tolerance of the soldering should be better, which I showed you. These gaps are half the gaps of the biggest gaps here. Or you go the harder route for assembly, that you buy individual matrices and you glue them together to the best of your ability. Now you should, as I say, get a metal strip, so you can make these parallel. Then you would have no gap. Then, however, you'll be linking wires between the matrices, which is a drawback. It's no real hassle. You know, you can use DuPont cables, or you could solder it on. I mean, for a permanent project, I'd always solder the wires on and get rid of the DuPonts. So my personal preference, if I was doing this again, I would definitely buy single matrices and stick them together. Make sure you buy them from the same manufacturer. That way they all should be the same hardware type. Hopefully they all come from the same batch, and that way the quality of the LEDs hopefully are the same. So when you have matrix of 12 and say you lit all these at, I don't know, 3 brightness, the brightness would be the same throughout the panel. You may think I'm nitpicking here, but I'm trying to save you money and disappointment, because you know, even when the cover is on here, and this is going to be covered on a later video, I've making a world time clock on this one. These bars are apparent, but there was no way that I could, in my 3D print design, try and allow for getting rid of this bar, because you know, I've done really crazy things. So let me sidetrack a little bit. I was yeah, you'll laugh at this one. You will really laugh. You think I'm a madman, don't you? So I was again trying to go square to round, and I thought, can you get more for your money? And what I mean by that, can you make this display bigger? So I thought, yeah, let's get in CAD and do something. Yeah, it's bound to work. So I made this. So don't laugh at me, bear with me. So this fits over the matrix, and this was meant to shine the light up like this. And having done no research, had not seen anything online about it, I thought, yeah, that will work. But obviously light likes to go in a straight line. It doesn't like it to go it doesn't like to be bent very easily. Well, not through reflection anyway. So this was a massive fail, because first of all, the white print here, I think this was PETG. It absorbs the light, so you get a lot of reflection. So I spray painted it black, and that really didn't work. But I thought, yeah, Andy, you know, you're going too big, you know. So then I tried a smaller one, lesser depth, because then you're bending the light less. So when you look through this, you can see more of the circles here than you can. It probably doesn't come out on camera in here. Then that still didn't work, so then I made a shorter one in again white, which would sort of I made a grid on this one so it would slip on with side pieces. That didn't really work. So then I got down to about this size, and now this one this is easier to see. Look, if I just bend it slightly, you can almost see. You can just about see when that's parallel to the camera. You can just about see an LED. So I'm not bending the light much, and look, I've only gained about 3, 6, 7, 8 millimeters. But yeah, I'm still playing with this. I'm not giving up, and that's a terrible print because that's lots of stringing in there. Anyway, that was trying to get something for nothing, and it failed. So that's why I went back to go in circles to square. Anyway, I digress slightly. So yes, purchasing these, be careful. They're all of the sort of same quality, i.e. not particularly good. And if you look at this one, I haven't really got a straight edge. This is pretty straight. You can see this one here I'm looking at, this one here. This is on a board, so this is one section of board here, and you can see this, you can see daylight. You can see this gap here. So this screen is high here and low here. And even that, and it's joined here, even that does make a difference. So yeah, I say, I repeat myself, I would always go singles. It's more work, but you know, you're obviously making something nice. You can buy these to play with to get yourself going because they're easy to daisy chain together. And you know, it's easy to work on a workbench. But if I was making a project, thinking about either buying these and you suffer the small gaps, which this one's hardly noticeable, you know, so without the header pins, with the header pins. Not sure though if you order, you know, that on the internet, whether you're, you know, sorry, if you order this off the internet, hopefully you'll get this and they won't send you one with header pins because this is where the errors creep in. So while we're on this, the way I join these together, my mistake here that I made was I tried to just bridge these with solder, and what you should do is get a bit of wire in there and wire them together and bridge them. Bit of lollipop stick, you know, when you're gluing these together here, that gives you quite a bit of strength, but I just thought I'd strengthen the back up quite a lot. And obviously you can only use a bit of stick because you've got the pins sticking out the back, so you know you've got these pins. Anyway, that's it, short video. Be careful where you buy them from. Try to buy them all in one batch. This is good. These header pin ones are not so good because you get gaps. Look, you can see on this one, massive gap there, gap there, gap there, and they're all bigger. If I put that one there, if I try and zoom in on that later, it's the gap. So it's your presentation at the end of the day. So I'll put some links where I bought mine. I'll try and find this link, but I've only got one of these, so I will struggle finding that. I've only got one of these. I've never seen square ones before. That's why I purchased it, and I can't find multiple squares, you know. But I think this is a good solution. And when I do this video, the CAD file for a single one will be available, but as I've explained on a multiple one, I think when I did this one, I didn't put a gap in because this gap is so minimal, you don't notice the difference, but on the header pin ones it certainly does. So yeah, you can see. Anyway, I was slightly disappointed in this when I glued it together, but Andy, you learn by your mistakes, and the idea of this video is to try and stop people making the same. So that's Andy wishing you a good afternoon. Get out, buy some LEDs, get something made, post the link below what you're making. Let's learn together. Cheers for now.